Hi there, my name is Rianne, and today I am joined by Lorraine, who is a multi award winning social entrepreneur, a coach, consultant, and writer. And with that being said, I'm very excited to learn from you, Lorraine, and I know our listeners will be as well. So, Lorraine, if you could just expand on a little bit more about what you do and a little bit about your journey.
Super. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So my name's Lorraine Copes. I am the proud founder of a social enterprise called Be Inclusive Hospitality. And we have a mission to advance race equity in the hospitality industry. Outside of that, I am a food and drink writer. I'm an editor for a magazine, Black Business Magazine. I also am a consultant and life coach, amongst a few other things, public speaker. I always feel like the list is very long, but it's all kind of extensions, and it's like a tree with different branches that all make up a part of all the things I love, really. So,
Yeah, amazing. And that's exactly what I thought when I was having a look through the things you do. I was like, wow, you do a lot, and it seems like you've been very influential in the
mhm.
spaces that you've entered. And what was it that inspired you to join the hospitality industry in particular?
Mm, that was actually chance. I actually studied logistics at university, and when looking for my first role outside of university, it was a supply chain role in a pub group that I applied for and got that role. And having joined the business, it was a joint venture between a business called the Spirit Group and Pub Punch Pub Company. I realized that I could work for a business, do something that I enjoy, but also eat food for free. So I've always been a big foodie, love food and drink, huge part of my culture, Jamaican heritage. And yeah, so the possibility of working in an environment where I work with creative chefs, as well as kind of leaning on the expertise and the background that I studied, was phenomenal, really. And from there, I just really got addicted to working in hospitality environments, where you just meet the most amazing people, because people are in hospitality genuinely because they love what they do, whether that is food, whether that's drink, and people love the industry as well. So yeah, I've been in it for over 20 years now.
Yeah, amazing. Love that. And yeah, the hospitality industry is an industry I've spent most of my working life in as well. So yeah, I'm actually really curious, and I know there's a lot going on at the industry at the moment where we kind of like don't know exactly where it's heading. Do you have any ideas on like where you see the future of hospitality going? Like anything that's prominent in your mind?
Yeah, I think that what hospitality has demonstrated over the years, throughout the time I've been in the industry, is it's a resilient industry. And so whether it was like the credit crunch back in 2007, and fast forward to what the industry has been experiencing since the pandemic, there are absolutely some casualties, but new concepts, businesses continue to innovate and to pop up, and the strong will survive, quite simply. And so I think that it's going to be continue to be a really extremely difficult time for the industry. But if you're subscribed to any of the kind of industry press, you'll know that every week there's a new opening.
Mm.
Every year there are new trends emerging. So hospitality is an industry that never gets tired of reinventing itself to a degree. And my personal hope is that we just start to see more represented cuisines in restaurants of all sizes and forms, that kind of show up and are able to thrive and succeed. Just being really specific on that, um, my heritage, parents are Jamaican born. Jamaican food was like the first love of my life. Love food, and for a very long time in hospitality, um, and it still remains the same to a degree. A lot of the Caribbean restaurants are generally more takeaways, and those that aren't takeaways often are, or that have now become either national or regional brands, are not run or owned by people from my heritage. And so that is starting to change, not only Caribbean restaurants but also African too. But I just really want to see more diversity in all tiers of hospitality, whether that's fine dining, casual dining, street food, and everything in between.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And yeah, that's one thing that now you said it, like I would love to see as well. I think it's amazing to like be able to immerse yourself in another culture and like really get to try like the incredible
Yes.
foods of that culture where it's like home cooked and it's really, really good. So yeah, really love that and love your like optimistic view on like where you see hospitality going and that it will continue to thrive and will continue to innovate. One of the quotes that I loved on your LinkedIn was, "I am purpose driven and constantly striving towards making a quantifiable and positive impact."
Mhm.
Really love that. What is quantifiable to you and like what do you want
Mhm.
to see?
Yeah, sure. I think quantifiable for me is around, can you measure it? Like, and I appreciate you can't measure absolutely everything, but can you measure it and can you really feel the ripple effect and the impact of that change? Right. I think that irrespective of, area of work and outside of mine, there's always kind of a PR and outward facing um, um, a PR and outward facing kind of a projection of what success looks like. And then there's actual impact to benefit the people that you want to support. And for me as a person, for me and all the work that I do, and I'll give you some real time examples. So, Be Inclusive Hospitality is an example. I can tell you that to date we have supported over 2,000 employees and entrepreneurs from racialized backgrounds. So I know that through the work we've done and taking stock on who we've supported and how we've supported them. As a life coach, I work largely with women business owners who are keen to kind of step change their organization. And whilst for confidentiality reasons, I couldn't share the specifics, I'm clear that they step change their organizations through working with me, right? When I think about the food and drink editor role that I hold, and it's for a Black business magazine, and we talk about Black owned brands and Black owned restaurants. And in that instance, I'm really clear that the value that I am adding is amplifying the voices of business owners who otherwise are not seen or not heard. So going back to the quote that you mentioned, for me, it's around starting with the end in mind and being clear on the impact that you're having with the work that you're doing. And
Mm.
that forever is my aim. And I don't know if it's just how I'm wired, or if it's because having spent the past 2 decades in commercial roles, being able to measure and quantify our impact in the business is almost now how I'm wired and how I approach anything, especially in business.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Yeah, and I think just from listening to you, like I can see why then it seems like you've had quite a lot of like high up positions and like you've been in quite influential roles, because I don't think everyone thinks about in the way that
Mm,
that is, yeah, like being able to quantify something and actually looking from like a results driven perspective and kind of just being like, oh, like this, if this happens, cool, like not really quantifying it, but to actually, so you're saying that to actually develop that mindset where it's not necessarily something you just come in and be like, right, this is my mindset now. Like, would you say that you've kind of developed that mindset of being
uh,
quantifiable for the years
uh,
and now it's good?
I think I think that I think that I've always been, and when I think back to like when I was really young, I want to know why I'm doing something. Like
Mm,
what's the point? Like what's the purpose? And I think it starts there. And I think
yeah.
having on like boards of businesses for a number of years, um, and still do, when you're in a leadership team,
Mm,
it's all around metrics, right? You measure the success of a performing business through their HR metrics, through their finance metrics, procurement, the list goes on and on. And
Mm,
so I think I think the way in which I view impact has changed over years as I've kind of accessed more positions. However, I have never been the type of person that will do something for the sake of it for no reason without having like a reason in mind. So I think it's kind of a combination, really.
yeah, amazing. Thank you for that. And yeah, I think it's very good to know, because I think sometimes we can jump on a bandwagon and be like, yeah, this would be an amazing project to work on, but haven't necessarily thought about like the long-term impact, or like like having the clarity which you seem to very much
Mm,
have in like each of the projects that you have. Um, and where you have been in a lot of influential positions over the years and like still continue to be, have there been any like specific challenges that you've encountered
mm,
along the way that you feel could be similar challenges for other people and what they might face too,
uh,
especially as
yeah, I think when I think about my career today, I've often felt othered in environments that I've worked, and othered from a gender perspective, and othered from being, a black woman, and then othered from being from a really working class background, and othered
mm,
being from Birmingham. And so all of these things have showed up in various guises throughout my career when I've occupied rooms that there is no one else that looks like me in those rooms. And
mm,
it's been a difficult journey for that reason, because I've always enjoyed the work that I do and I've always loved the teams that I work within. But especially within those kind of boardrooms, I've always felt very alone. And it's been a difficult road in that respect. And I've just always really heavily leaned on having supportive colleagues, supportive community outside of work, that has just made me kind of push forward regardless. But I think everyone, no matter what your background, has at some point in time experienced feeling othered, or feeling quite isolated in environments. And in terms of how I have kind of pushed through, I think a lot of self talk, positive self talk, a lot of affirmations, and a lot of kind of focusing on the best possible outcomes. And I say that because often when you're in a position where you've been in an environment that you haven't experienced as to be pleasant, each and every time that you are faced with going in that environment again, what will flood into your mind is the experience as it was. However, I think sometimes that can make things a lot worse when you experience it. So actually, just trying to visualize alternative outcomes can also help. Um, but um, but yeah, it's only when I started Be Inclusive Hospitality in the journey, where since starting this business 4 years ago, I found that I only work with people I like and respect. Um, and it's really made me realize like the burden that I carried working in the industry without those things being there. And
mm,
keep in mind that with Be Inclusive Hospitality, we work with loads of hospitality businesses. We work with global brands. We work with obviously the community. We work with a broad array of different types of businesses and different types of people from different backgrounds. But
mm,
that common thread is that we're aligned in some way, shape, or form. And
mm,
that for me is it brings great satisfaction not only on my day to day because of who I work with, but ultimately, whether founder or an employee, like a large proportion of your time is spent at work, right? And if you're
mm.
spending it doing something you don't enjoy or with people that you don't particularly respect or like, it can add a dimension to life that's less fun, I'd say.
Mm. Yeah, I absolutely completely agree on that. And I know from my end, I've uh like worked a lot to make sure that I'm working with people that I really enjoy spending time with. Like a lot of them are my friends, and it does make it a lot more enjoyable, doesn't it? That you can just kind
Oh,
of thrive and yeah, yeah, I
definitely.
love that. And sorry, was you going to say something there as well?
I just said
No.
definitely.
Yeah, amazing. So, I know you've kind of touched on a bit of how like Be Inclusive Hospitality has like helped with your working life. What was it that actually inspired you to start Be Inclusive Hospitality?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, what inspired me, I feel as though I was compelled in that I'd worked in the industry for 20 years. Um, no one, and I mean, no one within the industry was having the conversation about race and the disparities that exist. And no one was having a conversation that really understands how, again, racialized communities feel within the industry. And it just was not a topic. And so during the
Mm,
pandemic, I'd already thought about the idea in 2019. During the pandemic, I obviously had time on my hands, and I decided to finish the business plan and launch the business. So I feel as though I launched this business out of the need because there was a gap, a real gap in the
mm,
industry. And we filled that gap. And through filling that gap, we've built a really sizable community within a short space of time of, over 600 members. We've got well over 50 partners now. We've got over 100 ambassadors, over 100 mentors. And that's all continuing to grow week on week off the back of there being a gap in the industry. And we've kind of filled that gap with community and doing the work, which is often informed by research.
mm. Amazing. I love that. So it was the heart for it, and yeah, really seeing that need for people. And
Definitely.
what is a social, like I know it's a social enterprise.
Yeah,
What is a social enterprise?
yeah. Good question and honest answer as well. Before I even tell you what one is, I didn't know what a social enterprise was pre 2020. So I did a lot of research and got to better understand what a social enterprise is. So a social enterprise is ultimately a business that has a social cause or social purpose. And we operate the business as you would any other business. However, we prioritize people over profit to a certain degree.
Mm,
And so the metric of my business, we're a social enterprise limited by guarantee, which means that we are not for profit. We invest all of our profits into delivering our mission. So fairly similar to a charity, but I'd say less bureaucratic. However, our primary aim is to service the people that we recognize are facing challenges and barriers within the industry.
amazing. And just to double check then, because I know with charities, a lot of what they do is based upon donations. But are you saying that yours is a business, but it's just that all of the profits get funneled back into the business?
That's exactly
Yeah,
it. We're a
got you.
business, and operating model is very much as a business.
Yeah.
However, as a social enterprise, we are eligible for grant funding. So we
Mm,
do apply for grant funding, and that helps to fund our initiatives. But we're not a typical social enterprise because that's not my background. The large majority of social enterprises are heavily grant funded with a small revenue stream, and we are
mm,
the other way around. So 80% of our turnover is revenue, and about 20% is grant funding. And however, this year we are focusing on more accessing grant funding because it's money's available that we're eligible for that we're not currently tapping into.
amazing. And if you can tap into that, and yeah,
So,
then yeah, that would
yeah.
be amazing. And what would you say your main learnings have been whilst building a social enterprise?
I mean, there are so many. I think, yeah, there are so many. I think that whilst I've worked corporate environments for a number of years, I've never run my own business before, and many of the experiences I've held, thank God, have lended themselves to support my journey. However, it's still a learning, a roller coaster of learning. I've always prided myself as being a continuous developer. Um, but when it's business, and it's your own business, um, it's it's a lot of work, quite simply. And the first year of incorporation, fortunately, we're in the pandemic, and there wasn't a great deal else to do. I worked a lot of hours, and I still do. And so it's really important. I think some of the key learnings for me is ensuring that I find balance and knowing that without my health and well-being, there is no business, and that has to be prioritized. So it's a lot of work, but it's loads of fun. In control of your own destiny and supporting people as a purpose-led business is joy.
Mm,
And I think the business that I look around in today reminds me of the power of having clarity, having courage, and having confidence. And mentioned those three C's, as those are the three C's that I most use to serve my coaching clients, but they have served
mm,
in the instance of launching a business. The business that I sit in here today is the business that I wrote a plan for in 2020. And when you are
mm.
clear on what it is that you want to achieve and what it is that you want to do, that's a really important hurdle to take before moving forward. So I think it speaks to that.
Yeah, thank you for that, because it's interesting. Over the past couple of podcasts, there has been this common thread around confidence and being balanced, and that they're two things that people struggle with. I know with regards to balance, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're driven, like your business building, and I know from personal experience as well, it's like you feel like you need to be working 24/7, otherwise you're not going to get to where you need to be.
Mm.
Um, so how have you gone about creating more balance in your life, and how has that impacted what you're
Yeah.
bringing to the
Yeah. How have I gone about it? By recognizing that I was just exhausted and not being really productive, quite simply.
world?
And I actually say that 2023 has been my first year of more balance. I think, I'm not chasing this ultimate life of working in my business as if I'm working a 9 to 5. I mean, that is not the reality of being an entrepreneur, especially at the size that we're at and the growth that we're experiencing. I think
Mm,
what I have experienced, and if I talk about last year in particular, I was able to take more breaks than I have since I've launched this business. And it's through planning forward and being really intentional about the breaks I want to take and when I'll take them and carving out that time. It's also helped balance just in terms of investing in the right types of people that will support the business. For a very
mm,
long time, I was insistent that we're too small for me to need a assistant. And actually, Claire joined in July, and she's been a godsend as far as someone just taking 8 hours out of your week to diarize your meetings and to manage your diary can be just game changing in terms of the time that's then freed up for me to do the work that I need to do. So, just a combination of planning forward, um, investing in the resource I need, and also doing the things that bring me joy outside of work. And again, planning
mm.
forward, make sure I schedule them in.
Yeah, I love that. I think as humans, we're very good at filling our time and being like, I should have taken a break here, but there's something I need to do. So do you know what? I'm actually just going to do my work in that break that I did actually schedule for myself. And then we just don't rest. So yeah, just being disciplined with that, I guess, is the answer.
Definitely.
Amazing. And I know you touched on confidence as well. And
Mm,
again, another area that people struggle with, especially when it comes to being in the workplace.
mm.
What bits of advice do you usually give to people struggling in that area, and how they can kind of become more confident in what they're doing?
Yeah. I mean, I'd always describe confidence as a bit of a muscle that you have to flex. And everyone has their starting point, their base starting point of confidence. But the only way to build it is to do things that are either you're afraid of doing or you feel uncomfortable doing. And What I know for sure actually is that when I think and reflect about people that I've worked with over the years and people that I continue to work with here and now, that are hugely successful, or not. Confidence is the common thread that shows up
Mm,
in order to propel you and move you forward. Because if you don't have self belief and you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect other people to believe in you, right?
mm,
And it's interesting because it's a question that I'm often asked, um, because I have self belief, and have done for a while, and I often say in jest, and I kind of mean this, there's a bit of a delusional quality that I have in believing, like really believing that what has not happened is possible.
mm,
And that when you set that intention and believing it's possible, then you find a way and not the other way around.
mm,
But definitely, I say it's definitely a muscle that you flex, because when I think back to being late teens, uh, I don't believe I was particularly confident. Like, I was a tomboy, grew up with brothers, was overweight, didn't particularly feel confident with the way I looked. And with time, with like losing a bit of weight uh, and just kind of putting myself in environments and situations that I could kind of um, become more comfortable in.
mm,
It slowly but surely kind of just built my confidence, and yeah, so I think it's definitely a skill that you have to continue to flex and
mm.
do things that are either frightening, scary, or that you don't think you're capable of doing. You just have to take that step.
I really love that. And I think that's inspiring to hear as well, because I think sometimes you can look at someone who's super confident and just be like, oh, they're a really confident person. But you might not realize that in actual fact, they were super unconfident at one point in time. And that it was
Yeah.
actually something that they built on. And then that actually gives someone else
Mm.
the ability to think, wow, if someone else can do it, so can I. So,
Okay. And I think, just adding to that, I think confidence isn't also a permanent state.
mm,
So, I would like to say that in most rooms that I walk into, I feel pretty confident and feel, yeah, confident and comfortable. But there are rooms that I walk into and I'm like, God, what am I doing here? I don't want to be here. Like, it kind of flexes and bends dependent on the circumstance, dependent on my mood at the time,
mhm,
how tired I am. There's so many things that influence how confident you feel in an environment. It's not a permanent state at all. And everyone's confidence, I can't imagine anyone saying that their confidence never wavers. It wavers at different points in our lives. And it's just really just understanding, well, leading into that, recognizing that it's something that everyone struggles with, and a bit of self-talk and a bit of practice.
yeah, I definitely relate to that as well. Some days you feel super confident and you're like, yeah, love feeling like this. And then all of a sudden the next day you'll be like, what happened to me? So would you say also just acknowledging and being kind to yourself on the days where, because I think it's easy to beat yourself up then as well and be like, what did I do
Oh,
wrong?
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah. And with that being said, with the confidence piece as well, and with you having like a lot of high level positions, is there anything in particular that you would suggest for people who are like striving for like the high level positions, that
Mm,
you would particularly give as a piece of advice, is like these are the kinds of things that you would definitely need to kind of like work on and hone to get the high level positions if they're at like a barrier where they're like don't quite know how to get to the next level?
yeah. I think something that's really important actually is finding kind of career role models that are where you want to be,
Mm,
and learning directly from them can be hugely beneficial. And I say that because something I was really aware of quite early into my career was gravitas, and those leaders that I was drawn to because of their presence and how they
mm,
presented themselves and how they spoke, like with clarity and with confidence. And I think role modeling, and modeling on career role models can be hugely beneficial for you to step up to that next level. Because I also do think that sometimes being a leader is not about being the best in your specific field. I can say that I was an effective buyer. Was I the best buyer in the UK? Maybe not. But what I am is an effective leader. And I think it's also recognizing that you can have huge amounts of know-how in your specific field of expertise, and you might not be an expert, but you might be ready to step up to that next level based on behaviors, attitudes, um, and competency to be strategic, to think forward, to execute a plan, and all of these other things. But I definitely say role modeling and accessing mentors is hugely beneficial.
And if someone didn't have the direct access to a mentor, like how did you go about finding the mentors? Because I remember when I was in my early 20s, I started to hear this term mentor, and I was like, what is a mentor? What do they do?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd just be interested to hear how you went about finding the mentors.
Yeah. I mean, a number of things. I think hospitality is an industry, and I'm sure many other industries are very social. There's always events that are on. There's always huge amounts of opportunities to meet people that you might respect. Outside
Mm,
of that, utilize LinkedIn as well. If you're clear on where you want to get to, and you're looking for a particular role, search for them on LinkedIn via your network. They might have one
mm,
or two people in common with yourselves, and then approach them.
yeah.
you know I think I've had mentors that I've kind of befriended over a period of time and then asked. And I've had a mentor that I met once. He was the CEO of a company that was a charity, actually. And they're not very similar to Be Inclusive, but they'd grown significantly over a short space of time. And
Mm,
he was also a Brummy. And so after I met him, just in passing, I reached out to him and asked him to be my mentor, and he was really flattered and said yes.
yeah,
So
amazing.
it's finding people that you admire,
Mm,
whether that's through networking, whether that's through your network, whether that's through LinkedIn, and just having the courage to just reach out to them and say, hey, you know, either would you be available for a coffee, just keen to speak to someone of your experience. Um, and I'd suggest that approach over just asking someone outright to be a mentor, because mentorship, just like coaching, is in part reliant on a level of rapport. And
mm,
having a good rapport with your mentor coach will allow you to open up to them, to be honest, and to build a kind of stronger relationship as opposed to a transactional one.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's yeah, it's interesting what you said as well, which I think will be helpful for all of the listeners, that like sometimes like people are flattered and you might not feel like you can ask someone for help. And I think as humans, sometimes we are reluctant to ask for help or be like, oh, I don't want to like book them. But then actually someone could actually be super flattered and would love to
Exactly.
help someone and like mentor them. So yeah, love that. And where you got into coaching, what do you
Mhm.
think it was that inspired you to become a coach on top of like everything else that you do?
So I actually did a life coaching diploma back in 2017 or 18, actually. So I took some time out of work a few years ago, and
Mm,
I it's the first time in my career since studying at university that I had the opportunity to just to be. So like I traveled, I did a bit of traveling and did a lot of like nice lunches. And I just really had to think about like what is it that I really want to do outside of procurement. So I really enjoy procurement, and I just wanted to do something else. And so did a life coaching diploma because I've always loved supporting people more than I enjoy procurement, actually.
yeah,
I enjoy procurement, but people have always been the kind of focus and interest area for me personally. And I saw an ad. I went to like a kind of careers day for a particular coaching academy, and that one wasn't right for me, but it prompted me to look for others. And then I signed up for this diploma, and it was transformational for my life, because I feel like having studied life coaching, that then led me onto the path of Be Inclusive Hospitality, because in order to help other people, you've got to really understand yourself. So
Mm. Yeah, yeah, definitely agree with that.
you see
Yeah,
me.
I mean, yes,
Sorry, I see the light is kind of peering in, so I look like I've got like a zebra stripe across my face. Can you
it's
still see me?
natural
Shall I,
lighting.
shall I close the thing, or can you see me?
Yeah, it's fine. I can see you perfectly.
Okay. Will it be all right on there? Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a little bit zebra stripes, but we're all good.
I was like moving forward, like, what do I do here? Okay, you can see me now. Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it'll be fine. It's natural. Okay, so one thing that I saw on your LinkedIn as well was the African proverb, which is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. What does that mean to you?
Mm. It really speaks to like the real benefits of collaboration and community.
Mm,
And it speaks to kind of the growth that we've seen as an organization in a short space of time is through collaboration and community.
mm,
And it's just really a reminder that no man's an island. We all need people to help us on our journey, to support, and everyone is in that same boat, really. So yeah, I think that community is just hugely important in every sense of the word, and
mm.
you achieve greater results when there's a group effort.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And because I know as well, especially with entrepreneurs, they usually just try to do everything themselves, and
I've been there
that can,
though.
sorry.
I've been there too, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah. I think we all have. We're just like, I just want to do it all. What piece of advice would you give to someone kind of in that boat where they don't really know how to delegate, they're trying to do everything themselves and yeah, getting past that barrier?
And you know, I laugh and say that has been me. And part of the reason why that has been me is because I actually do enjoy all parts of the business. Like I love
Mm,
creative, I love it all, and I enjoy doing it, but I haven't got the time. So what would I
mm,
say is that you've got to decide if you want to be an operator or a CEO. And if
mm,
you're an operator, continue to schedule socials and continue to do blog posts and continue to do the operational tasks within your organization. But if you want to be a CEO, you've got to be strategic. You've got to be thinking about the future of the business, and you've got to be all your efforts have got to be focused towards ensuring that your business sustains, it grows, it develops, and you're creating the space to build relationships that help you to do that. And you can't do that if you're an operator.
mm. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That's great advice for anyone because I think sometimes as well we can feel like, yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur and like I want to like build this massive business, but may not have actually looked inside to see, is this going to bring me the highest form of joy? Um, and then you
Mm.
might actually find out that you are more of an operator, or yeah, like maybe you don't want to be a CEO of the company.
Yeah,
And
for
would you
sure.
say that that's an important part of it? Like a lot of people, we can have ideals of what we want to achieve, but then when we actually see the reality of what that means, it's then like, oh, that was actually different to what I thought at the beginning.
Yeah, sure. Because I do think that, you know, with business, with careers, with anything, for many things, we only know when we try. And so if we
Mm,
don't try, we don't know. And actually being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. It's a difficult road. It's an enjoyable road, but it's a difficult road, and it can be somewhat isolating as well. You know, there's so many. There's pros and cons, obviously, to being anything in any life. But ultimately, we should all just make informative decisions as to what's right and what's best for us, and that will look
mm,
different on who we are and what we do.
mm. And would you say that that's one of the benefits of having a coach? I know where you do a lot of coaching. Do you find that a lot of people find their way through having coaching?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, coaching is really about you as an individual gaining some clarity and support along your journey to achieve a goal.
Mm,
Um, and often, um, I think especially as women, we there's a lot of self-talk. It's not always positive self-talk.
Mm,
And it's not always easy for us to talk to our friends and our family about our intentions with business. So it's almost like a critical friend. The reason why I primarily support women in business, or really senior women in business, is because I've been there. And
mm,
so whilst I do not direct my clients, there's an element of experience that I can bring to the dynamic, which is of help. But I think I know that gaining clarity is so important on any
mm,
that you walk. I meet people all the time that I don't coach, but I've had discovery calls with, that they're doing things and they're building a business without being clear on what the end goal is or what they want to achieve.
mm,
And don't get me wrong, I think that some people can be very lucky and end up in a place that they want to be. But I've never personally seen the point of doing anything without understanding what the point of doing this is. Like, what is the point?
mm. Yeah. So just being very clear on your why and like what you want your outcome actually to be. Yeah. And I
Definitely.
guess that, yeah, it kind of goes back to what we were saying before, how we can sometimes just be like, this sounds like a great idea, let's run with it. But then there isn't actually any like end goal or what you want to achieve. Um, yeah, amazing. Thank you for that. And I think all of what you shared today has been super, super helpful. Is there anything else that you would like to share that you think would be super helpful for our listeners to hear?
Super helpful. I would say, I think it's really important for us to carve out time to really get to know ourselves and what we want,
Mm,
especially as we become adults. Because I think as young people, especially under 30, I think actually that's not true. I know some under 20s that are really clear and thriving. But what I would say is when you are younger, you are often heavily influenced by a lot of things in your environment. Could be your
mm,
family, could be your friends, could be, social, could be work. And actually, I think it's really important just to revisit that conversation with yourself as an adult and really think about what it is that you want. And I always say to start at a point of what you would do if money was no object, because I
mm,
think it all lies within us, all of us, as to what we want to do. We all know, but we're either afraid to say it or haven't created the space for ourselves to explore and dream. And it's so important. And I really do feel as though since starting this business 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, I feel like I have had a rebirth in terms of career, of really thinking about what my future looks like and hopefully having the time and space to create that and make that happen, especially this year. Um, because had I had pursued what I love, I wouldn't have studied logistics at uni. I would have studied media studies,
wow.
for but I didn't have the courage, and I didn't think what I dreamed of doing was possible. Whereas I don't look at life in that way at all anymore.
Mm. Yeah, I guess it's a constant exploration, isn't it, of
Yeah.
life
But,
and
but I tell you this, at 16, chose my A levels. I did media studies and psychology, and computing was just a wild card. And as I said
mm,
to you, if I had followed my dream, I would have done a degree maybe in media studies. And psychology is something that's always showed up for me. And here I
mm,
am 20 years later, even though I pursued a different path. Life coaching is often rooted in psychology and through Be Inclusive Hospitality. And outside of that, I do a lot of public speaking, a lot of chairing, a lot of hosting, and media and communication in particular is something that I love and I have an appetite to do more of, which I will be this year.
mm. So
So,
it's almost so
sorry, you were going to say?
I was going to say you went down the procurement path, but then you've ended up in doing things with the media and with psychology anyway.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
I love that. And yeah, that quite nicely leads us on to we have a couple of famous fireside whispers questions. The first one being, if happiness was a cake for you, what would
Mm.
you put into it?
Happiness was a cake. I
Yeah.
love cake, by the way. I love cake. Cake's one of my
Same.
favorite things. If it was a cake, what would I put into it? I would put a lot of joy, a
Mm,
lot of love, a lot of family and friends, um, a lot of physical activity,
mm,
uh, exercising and being fit. I'd put a lot of great food. I'd put a lot of travel, a lot of great music, a lot of concerts. So you see where I'm going with this. Like all the things I love would be in that cake, with maybe some champagne and some rum.
amazing. Love that. That is, I hear some very simple ingredients going into cakes. You're like me, absolutely just love everything. Put everything in it. Fill life to the full. And what is one piece of wisdom you would give if you were sat around the campfire with all of the rest of the Fireside Whispers um,
Mhm,
speakers? What
mhm.
is one piece of wisdom you would give if, above all else, if there is one?
Um, one piece of wisdom. Um, I have no idea. I guess, and this is my point of view, and this has just been my experience through life is that be a nice person.
Mm,
I think that have I been competent throughout my career? Yes. Have I moved forward within my career because I'm a nice person and I'm relatively easy to work with? Yes. It makes a
mm,
huge point. It makes a huge difference. People do business with people, people work with people. And if you are a nice person and you're pleasant to people, irrespective of their level, and you're reasonable and rational, then that goes a long way. So you can be the most competent, intelligent person in the world, but if you're not nice, then
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that. Thank you. And where can people find you if our listeners wanted to get in contact with you? Where would they find you?
So on socials, all your socials, Instagram is Lorraine.Copes.
Mm,
LinkedIn's Lorraine Copes. Twitter, I'm not really active, but I'm on there as Lorraine Copes. And yeah, so all our socials, if you Google me, you'll find me.
yeah.
Yeah, so social media is definitely the place to be.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for that. And I know when I searched your name, yeah, everything came up, which was super, super easy. So
Mm.
yeah, it's been amazing speaking to you, Lorraine. Thank you so much for everything you shared today. I know there's been lots of wisdom in that one podcast that will be super helpful for our listeners, I know. So thank you again. And we will leave it there for now.
Super. Thank you.